All right, today we are diving into something that sounds like it's straight out of science fiction. There's a provocative idea making the rounds that a brand new scientific study has actually validated a theory on how to reverse aging, at the cellular level. The claim is that this isn't just a tiny step forward, it's a huge shift in how we think about getting older. So let's see what this is all about.
To really get your head around this, let's start with a simple metaphor. Imagine for a second that your body, your cells, had a little battery indicator just like your phone. And as you aged, that little bar slowly went from green to yellow to red. Now what if you could find a charger and just plug your cells back in? That's the big idea we're exploring.
And here's where it gets really interesting. According to the source material we're looking at, this is no longer just a metaphor. There's a new peer-reviewed paper published in the very well-respected journal PNAS that's being held up as proof. The argument is that we might have just found that biological charger.
Okay, so to understand why this new study is causing such a stir, we first have to talk about the theory it supposedly proves. It's called the battery model of aging, and honestly, it's a refreshingly straightforward way of looking at how our bodies work, or stop working.
It all kicks off right here, with our old friends the mitochondria. You probably remember hearing about them in biology class, right? The powerhouses of the cell. But let's ditch that term for a second. A better way to think of them is as tiny biological batteries. You have billions and billions of them, and their main job is to generate the electrical energy that keeps you going.
So this theory does something kind of radical. It simplifies the whole concept of aging. It says, forget about 100 different things going wrong at once. At its most basic, fundamental level, aging is just a decline in the electrical charge of our mitochondrial batteries. That's it. And this isn't just a vague idea. There's a scientific name for it, delta psi m. It's basically the technical term for the voltage reading across the mitochondrial membrane. The theory is simple. When delta psi m is high, you've got a young, healthy, vibrant cell. When that voltage starts to drop, well, that's when the decline begins.
So when you strip it all down, the theory really makes three big claims. Number one, aging kicks in the moment that cellular voltage starts to drop. Number two, disease really takes hold when that voltage collapses. And number three, the most important one, if you want to reverse all this, if you want to regenerate, you have to find a way to restore that charge. It's a beautifully simple electrical way of looking at health.
Okay, so with that whole theory as our backdrop, let's switch gears and look at the new science. This is where the story gets really compelling, because this new paper seems to put that exact idea to the test in a real lab. So this research comes from a team at Texas A&M. And what's interesting is they weren't necessarily trying to prove the battery model or anything. Their experiment was just really focused on mitochondria. They wanted to see if they could kick stem cells into a kind of mitochondrial overdrive, on purpose. And how they did it is pretty amazing. The scientists built these tiny little nanostructures they called nanoflowers. Think of them like a spark plug. They introduced these to stem cells, and it caused the cells to just churn out tons of new high-energy mitochondria. But here's the crucial step. They then took these supercharged mitochondria and transferred them into older, damaged cells. And the results were, well, they were pretty stunning. The failing cells didn't just get a little jolt. They got their fundamental health back. Their energy production shot up, their metabolism stabilized, their genes started working correctly again, and they even started communicating properly with other cells. They were, for all intents and purposes, recharged. So this is where it all comes together. How do these incredible lab results tie back to that battery model of aging we talked about? Well, according to the source material, it's not just a vague connection. It's a direct point-for-point match. This is really the core of the whole argument. Let's look at this side by side. The theory predicted that aging is a voltage decline. Well, the study showed that by restoring mitochondria, you restore function. The theory said rejuvenation requires you to restore that charge. The study literally recharged failing cells. The theory claimed renewal happens by making new mitochondria. The study did exactly that, just artificially. And this last one is just perfect. The theory said strong cells could help weak ones, and the study showed it by directly transferring superior mitochondria. This quote from the source really nails the whole mechanism. Cells with coherent mitochondria uplift cells with incoherent mitochondria. Coherence spreads. Degeneration reverses. This paints a picture of health as something that isn't static. It's an active, transferable quality. A strong cell can literally share its energy with a weaker one and turn back the clock. So, if this connection is real, what are the implications? What does this actually mean for us? According to the source, it's huge. It takes these findings and just launches into some very, very forward-looking ideas about our own biology. The first big idea is something called biological superconductivity. Now, this is a pretty wild concept. You're not going to find this in your standard biology textbook, at least not yet. It's a theoretical state of, well, ultimate biological efficiency.
So the theory goes like this. When that mitochondrial voltage, that delta psi m, gets high enough, the cell enters a totally new state of being. It becomes almost frictionless. Energy and information can move around with practically zero resistance. And in a state like that, things like healing could become unbelievably fast and efficient.
And the source argues that this PNAS study gives us our first real-world peek at this state. All the results they saw, the increased efficiency, less wasted energy, stable communication, even the entire genetic system reorganizing itself, all of these are presented as signs of a system moving toward that superconductive state. And if you thought that was out there, it gets even bigger. The theory proposes that mastering this cellular energy system isn't just about getting healthy, it's about evolution. This optimization of our mitochondria is framed as the biological foundation for what the source calls homoplasmae, a potential next stage for all of us.
So let's pull all these threads together. Where does this leave us? The source article makes a pretty bold declaration that we are entering a totally new era in understanding our own bodies, an era it calls the age of coherence.
The main takeaway, the conclusion it draws, is crystal clear. The argument is that this isn't just theory anymore. The basic blueprint for how to reverse aging in a single cell by restoring its energy has now been demonstrated in a lab. Now, of course, jumping from one cell in a petri dish to an entire person is a giant leap, but the argument is that the principle has been proven.
So in the end, it all comes down to this really simple four-step logic. 1. Life is fundamentally about electrical charge. 2. Aging is just the decline of that charge. 3. Regeneration is the restoration of that charge. And 4. We now have what the source claims is direct scientific confirmation of that final, crucial step.
And that leaves us with one final, massive question to think about. If this really works, if a single cell can be made young again just by giving it its energy back, what does that ultimately mean for an organism that's made of trillions of those cells? What could that mean for the future of the human lifespan itself?